Shut up and sit down.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott. I'm with The Hard Truths by Scott Lurie. We're here today in studio on the eve of what is going to be the greatest real estate event in the Midwest. I'm sitting here with my partner in the event, Tony Romero, as well as Tony and Eric, who are guest speakers for the event this weekend and have been kind and courteous to visit with us a little bit early to share some insight into the real estate industry. As you know, we are focused, this podcast is focused on real estate investing, and everything real estate. And with that said, thank you, Tony and Eric, for being in Milwaukee. First time here?
No, we grew up in Rockford, Illinois.
Okay,
so, yeah,
there you go.
We've been in Milwaukee a few times.
Amazing. Well,
First time here sober, probably.
Yeah, there you go. Well, at least you're here. And maybe you'll remember it this time. So that's good. Exactly. Welcome to Milwaukee. We really appreciate you guys being here. We're excited for this weekend. I can't believe we have a sold out event, 300 plus people coming from 27 different states. And my gratitude goes to Tony. He's been tenacious in finding and networking and focusing on teaching other people real estate. And so our common denominator is obviously real estate. But Tony, maybe you can start by letting us know a little bit about what you and Eric do, and we're going to touch on wholesaling. And so, why don't you let us know what you do, and you guys are in Raleigh, right? Raleigh, North Carolina, right now.
Yes. Yeah, we're in Raleigh. So Eric kind of started in this business and got me in a little later. But,
okay.
We have a friend in Orlando, Florida, that does wholesaling.
Okay.
Mutual.
So can you just for the audience, so I always like to break it down so that some of the audience that joins us fully understands what wholesaling is. Some people understand all the terms that we're going to discuss today. And then there's that guy who's driving down the street who wants to be involved in real estate and has no idea what wholesaling is.
Right.
So can you just tell me what is wholesaling so they can understand it, or maybe tell me what your friend in Orlando does who wholesales, and then we can talk about you guys?
Yeah, we basically use, we pull a bunch of data, absentee owner data mostly,
okay.
And skip trace it, send it over overseas for a call center to call the data, and any interested good leads get pushed into our CRM at the office. These are people that want to sell or show interest in selling their house off market, discounted cash as is. So once those leads get pushed to our CRM, we have closers on the phones in office that will get the seller under a purchase agreement. And that's, Eric will talk more about that side
sure.
of things. The acquisition side he's the best at. That's the department he handles. I handle dispositions.
Okay.
So a wholesale deal, a purchase contract will come to my office. I have a team that puts a listing together on the property. We run our own comps on Dispo. We find a cash buyer, an investor in that market, and we sell the for more than what we purchased it for, basically.
Sure. So in essence, just to describe a little bit more about wholesaling, maybe for somebody, but wholesaling is you're basically buying a contract and then you're selling the contract for a fee. Exactly. Is that a fair synopsis of what happens?
You're assigning the contract.
And so, Tony, you're the dispo guy or disposition person, so you're selling what Eric is buying. Is that probably a fair statement?
That's a basic way to put it, sure.
Okay, so maybe Eric, before we get to what Tony does, can you tell us a little bit about, so Tony touched on a couple different things, which was pretty fascinating for people, but you're pulling data.
Yeah.
So what intrigues you? What data is your goal? Where do you grab it?
For the last 12 months, absentee owner.
So absentee owner means a non-owner occupied owner of any piece of real estate, single family duplex.
Right now we focus 100% on single family.
So you're pulling data that says I, the owner, do not live in the property, so I'm not owner occupied in terms of the real estate, and I do not live there. And Does it have to be tenanted or does it not matter?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so any non-owner occupied property, you're pulling.
Yeah, 100%.
And so let's talk about then you're sending it over to someone to skip trace the data. Is that what you're doing essentially overseas?
Yeah. So we get the data, we get the numbers attached to the data, we send it to cold callers.
Sure.
We want to take a cold lead to a semi-warm lead, and then it's our job to take it to the closing table.
So let's walk through that process for a guy who, everyone wants to be a wholesaler, right? I mean, I talk to most people in the real estate industry. Everyone wants to be a wholesaler, and I don't know I get it. But how can everyone want to be it? It's because there's something that attracts them, right? Because that shiny object, which is the payday, that's what people see, right? The shiny object over here, I'm flickering, I'm the wholesaler, and what you get is that assignment fee is what is the gold, the shiny object.
Yeah.
But it's much harder than that, right?
Listen, when you break it down, the model is very easy.
Sure.
People overcomplicate it.
Oh, for sure.
The hardest part of this entire model is up here.
Yeah.
The mindset. For me,
So
anyways.
so think about that for a minute. Well, let me take you back for 1 minute, Eric.
Yep.
So you said that everyone overcomplicates it, but at the end of the day, it's a business. I mean, it is still a nuanced business, right? So if you take most of the companies in the United States of America, most people don't work with overseas companies.
Right.
So it's not that simple to say we have overseas companies. Before I met Tony, I didn't know what a VA was. I've been in the business for 20 years. This is a true story. So Tony says to me, "Oh, I'll get you a VA." And I'm like, "What, we're going to Virginia?" And the answer is no, I'm going to get you somebody that's going to call these numbers for you. And I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?" And now we've got, I don't know how many VAs we have working now, but we've got a few that are doing the job. And so it is fascinating. And so what people probably need to understand a little bit, and I think the intriguing part about what you guys do specifically is you're pulling one class of real estate, which is non-owner occupied real estate, single family, non-owner occupied.
Right.
And the data is, how many are you pulling? How many leads do you get off of that?
So we have 20 cold callers, and we pull 10,000 records.
So you said you have 20 people that are cold calling for you.
Yep. 5 days a week.
So you pull
45 hours a day.
You pull off
weekday.
prop?
So right now we're using List Source. That's the only company that we've used to pull data.
Yeah, but so that's without getting too into the technicalities of it. I mean, I just want someone to understand. I just want someone to understand for a minute. These two guys who have a business have 20 people. Do you know any of them? Of the cold callers?
So never met a single cold caller.
Okay, so
full transparency.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to meet them.
No. You don't want to meet them. We don't even want anything. But let's just think about it. So these guys have an infrastructure in place where they're pulling data. They're getting 20,000 potential candidates that own non-owner occupied real estate where they're going. They've got 20 people somewhere in the Philippines, I'm going to assume, or somewhere wherever in Egypt. Okay, so they're using the Egypt VAs. And those people, for 45 hours a week, are calling potential buyers, sellers, and saying, "Hi, would you like to sell your house?"
Yeah.
Or whatever the variety of stuff that they're doing, right? So I'm simplifying it, but I want you guys to, on the other end, understand wholesaling is a business.
It's a lucrative business.
It's a lucrative business, but it
sure.
doesn't just happen by a bandit sign and someone saying, "Hey, I'm going to go do this." This has now become, in a modern age, which has fast forwarded a lot. I used to wholesale houses, but I would do everything via direct mail.
Right.
Now, that was back in the day. Then somehow the world passed me by when I got into a different business, which was developing and building multifamily housing. And all of a sudden I get back into it from Tony. And I said, "Hey, Tony, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, I've got 27,000 people calling 87,000 people in 1 minute." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Right.
So I just want people to understand on the other end of this, the listening spectrum, they're like, this is a business. There are people on this world that are out there. So let's fast forward for a minute. So you get a cold lead. It starts as cold lead. It goes to a warm lead, right? What makes it warm?
So we're looking for what their responsibility is to send us a lead. We want to know the bed's bath. We want to know they have a motivation to sell.
Okay.
And I just want the cash. for me is a motivation.
Right. I want out.
Yeah. And then we want a time frame.
Okay.
So we don't want someone sent to our CRM that says, I want to sell, but I need to sell a year down the road. Like, we don't want to mess with that person right now.
Do you follow up though?
So we have a custom built CRM, and
So which one do you use?
We have our own
custom built.
Okay, so you build it, but there's no platform for it. It started from the ground.
Scratch.
Okay.
I was building it in my last business. It's been something that's been in the works for the last 12 years.
Wow, amazing. So let's just talk through that, Tony. So maybe you could help these guys, because I know you do a lot of wholesaling and have the process down, but I'm trying to break it down for someone on the other end here. So if you can walk Eric through or get to maybe what happens when it goes from a cold lead to a warm lead. What are your next steps and your next processes to get there?
So we have, once a cold lead turns to a warm lead, it hits our CRM. Then we have an acquisitions manager or a closer call that lead, and they're going to go through a qualification process. The one thing I think about the wholesaling industry that it does lack in some of the sales training is they preach, get on the phone and off the phone with them as fast as you can. Like, I hear a lot of times, see how fast you can disqualify a lead. In my opinion, go into it solution-based, see how you can qualify that lead. So we have a 5-step sale process for our acquisition managers. It's point of contact, it's fact find, it's do the pitch, it's make the offer, and then close the deal.
And you always make the offer, I assume.
100% of our leads get an offer, because you're not going to close the deal unless you make an offer.
Yeah, and so having had those period of time in the gap between today's day and age and back when I was wholesaling and flipping and buying contracts, here's what you have to remember. I always made the offer.
You have to.
Because I always tell people, and I feel like I tell them this today still in a different way, and it's a different voice. I say, you don't want to answer for them. Let them say no.
Yeah.
And so I always say, I'm like, they'll never take that offer. How do you know?
Yeah. At the end of the day, money will change somebody's mind.
Yeah, but even if you give them an offer, they might not accept it today. How many times do you requalify, right? Hey, I give you the offer. You're freaking nuts. I'm not talking to you. Click.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow they're like, oh, hey, is my offer still good?
Yeah.
But on the other end, what's the craziest price drop you've ever done just because of an offer being made?
Explain. I want to make sure I
So
understand
let's just
your
say
question.
somebody's asking for 200. You're like, no, we're at 140, and they say yes.
Yeah, I mean, it happens
All the time,
We
right?
just-
It's
yeah.
crazy.
It happens all the time.
But
man.
people don't make that offer.
Yeah.
All the wholesalers just say, oh, well, this guy's way too high. It's not going to work. Let's go to the next one.
For sure.
We just had this conversation at lunch, which is how, we were telling somebody we've done 3 6-figure deals in the last few months, and they're like, well, how do you get the 6-figure deal? Are you just offering them $100,000 less than what the house is worth? And we're like, well, how else would you get the
The
deal?
answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
That light bulb went off quickly for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but so I think what you just said, Tony, is pretty fascinating to me, is that you've done 3 deals. And so your attitude, and maybe I'm simplifying your attitude, I'm just getting to know you guys, and so I appreciate the time, but you're saying I want to hit the big deals because the big deal takes the same amount of energy as the little deal. And if I do the same amount of times, why not make $100,000 over here versus making $8,000 here? Because a lot of the dispo companies or a lot of the wholesalers are running around saying, I'll collect a check here for $5,000, one for $2,000, one for $8,000. I'm like, dude, that is a lot of energy for $2,000. That's a lot of energy.
Hey, the little deals are the hard deals.
Right.
The little ones are hard.
Yeah.
The big ones, they're easy.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, because I remember smallest check we ever made, $1,000, or maybe even less than $1,000. Probably took us 6 months, 40 hours we put in, plus 40 hours that we put into it. Easiest check we did was $55,000. Took us an hour and a half.
Yeah.
From start to
Happens
finish.
every time. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's kind of I'm going to say that's a fascinating statement, though, because when you guys are going to make the offer, what you're figuring out is not what to offer. In essence, you're figuring out how motivated is this seller.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you offered them 100 or you offered them 95,000, they're motivated enough to accept your offer because they want what you got.
Yeah.
Right? They're taking what you're selling no matter what the opportunity is because they want to move out of town. Grandma died. They don't want the house. They don't want to put in the repairs. Who knows? But you guys seem to hone in on a little differently where the motivation is, and the more motivated the opportunity, the more ability you guys have to get to the larger figures of profit.
Well, and that's what Eric's so good at is the close, the acquisition side of things, and getting somebody on the phone and building rapport to where they're comfortable enough to open up and tell you their why.
Right.
Why are they selling you their house over the phone for
Sure.
a discount? You know?
Right, and so if you think about that, I mean, that's a pretty interesting statement. Real estate to most people is not done over the phone.
No, it's foreign.
But you take, so Eric, how many times a day, or when the call comes in, how much? So you said you got a 5-step process.
Yes.
How long does it take a motivated lead you're spending how long with on the line?
Anywhere from 35 minutes to an hour.
So you're spending an hour. Let's just say you're spending an hour with Grandma, whatever Smith,
There you go.
because she's motivated.
Yeah.
And you're 2 qualifiers, right? So do you own the house free and clear? Do you have any encumbrances? Is probably one. And then the other is, and what's your motivation? And it's, I got to get into the nursing home tomorrow. I've got somewhere to go. The tenants just trashed the place and I hate my tenants and I want out.
Yeah.
Whatever the motivating qualifier is, that's what allows you to invest that time with that person.
100%. Bigger the problems, bigger the spreads.
Yeah, so when you talk about problems, what's the biggest problem you've ran into that someone's had? Is there an underlying tone of messaging? Is there a couple common denominators that a potential wholesaler could pick up on and say, this is going to come your way?
Listen, the problem tenants.
Tenants are a big deal.
That's the biggest one.
It's a amazing lead.
Yeah.
I mean, we could sit here and talk about so many different problems that they have, right? One of our biggest one, we just actually locked up a $115,000 deal yesterday before jumping on a plane to come here. And it was an older woman that just wanted to be closer to her grandkids. And
So her motivation was family,
it was family.
and she wanted out of where she was going, and you guys solved her problem by saying, we'll have you out in 10 days or whatever the period of time is you offered her.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for different people, their problems, it's like a small problem to you and I is a major problem to one of these sellers.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's
Yeah, no, and when you think about it, when you think about motivation, because, you know, what I've always been trained on and what I've always been focused on is motivation is always the same, and no matter where you are, right? It's the motivation. And when you have a buyer, right, you have someone, or a seller, you have somebody that's like, it doesn't matter. You're like, man, I'm barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
I better go down the road. But to somebody that says, hey, and so walk me through that. Walk me through your last deal you just did, just from the standpoint of the lady expressed her motivation that she wanted to be closer to her daughter. How did you get to that? Like, how did you, hey, grandma, how you doing? Great. You want to sell your house? No, bye. That would be most people's attitude, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have invested in your 5-step process, the concept of saying, hey, Grandma Smith. And then how did you get to, like, what's her problem? Walk me through that for a minute.
Yeah, so in our office, we have, it's a rule of thumb. You have to spend at least 10 minutes with a lead before you can come to me and confidently say that lead is not a qualified or disqualified lead. Like, it takes time to take houses.
Yeah.
Right? And we
For
live
sure.
by that motto. It takes time to take houses. So when the lead came to us, first thing is point of contact, right? Why am I calling you? Write down my information. We're going to buy our house. We're going to make it quick, simple, and you ain't going to pay any closing costs or commissions. You get that out of the way, and then it's fact find. So in the fact find of that call is going to be the most important part of that phone call. So it's, yeah, I want money, but then it's take some time. What do you need the money for, right? What do you need the money for? I want to go see my grandkids. Where are your grandkids at? They're in Tennessee. How are you going to get to Tennessee? We need the money, sell the house, go to the grandkids. So then it's, is your husband on board with you? Let's get him on the phone. So they weren't on the same page. The wife was moving, the husband was staying. As we started peeling the onion back and getting them to open up to us, they are massive hoarders. It's a 5-bedroom house, and they can't go in 3 of the bedrooms. So Their biggest issue, they were ashamed of where they lived. They were grown adults. They hadn't been in 3 of their bedrooms in 5-6 years. So, like, for them to move was very overwhelming. What we said is, listen, let's sign the contract or the offer, and within 72 hours, I'm going to personally come to your house and take all this weight off your shoulders. Like, there's nothing to be ashamed about.
Right.
Told them a little bit about my backstory. Listen, I used to be ashamed with some of the stuff I did in my life.
Sure.
But they had a massive problem. We took the problem, took it off their shoulders, put it on ours, and they're good to go. It's like...
Yeah, and so you spent the time to build the credibility as well as the understanding with grandma and grandpa at the time that, hey, guys, your problem, it's not so bad. I've seen it before. I've got problems myself. Let me tell you about them. And that built up the confidence that they were willing to not be ashamed of their hoarderness.
Yeah.
And they can sell you the house at a deep discount.
Yeah.
How much are you going to make on that?
I think is that one 115?
Well, the one we just assigned was $115,000 assignment fee.
68,000 on that one.
68.
So you'll make $68,000 by spending an hour with Grandma and Grandpa Smith.
Yeah, and here's the crazy part. A VA, virtual assistant, sent it, paying them $4.75 an hour, paying my closer $4.75 an hour, and she's going to make $300 on that deal.
Right. And so your system is there, right? So you've got the system to use the technology that's in our world today to call 20 people calling leads all day long to get to make $68,000.
Yeah.
And $115,000 on assignment fees, which is unbelievable and something you guys should certainly be very proud of. So, Tony, let's talk about this process for a minute. So, Eric acquires it, right? So, Eric has just spent the time with Grandma and Grandpa Smith. They now understand that we have a hoarding problem. You understand what's going on. Tell me what happens, Eric. I mean, Tony, I mean, how does... Because at the end of the day, Eric made the money for you already. You just got to produce it, right?
Kinda. We'll say, Eric will say acquisitions is the most important part. I'm like, you ain't getting paid unless I sell it. So
you're important. You're important, but he's the one that makes the money. Exactly. You just bring it to the table.
Exactly. No, it's funny you said, just to touch on earlier, you said, we have 20 cold callers that we've never met. We do this virtually. We've sold almost 70 properties. We've probably only been inside 2 of them. You know what I mean?
Isn't that amazing?
Everything's virtual. Our people working for us, the properties, marketing, everything is virtual. And so is Dispo, right? So disposition, which is what I do. Eric locks the deal up. We have a customer service person that gets pictures taken of the property. This particular one we're talking about is in Raleigh, where we live, where our office is. So we'll personally go there and take the pictures. Sure. But usually 9.9 times out of 10, we'll either have the seller take pictures for us, or we hire a photographer to take pictures for us. We get the pictures back. We assess the house. We run our own comps on Dispo side. We see who's paying cash and what they're.
So stop there for 1 minute, because when you say you're seeing who's paying cash, what people have to understand is that the same record that Eric is seeking to figure out who's the single family non-owner occupied property, Tony's interested to know who's buying the single family non-owner occupied for cash.
Exactly.
So there's the double-edged sword that you're saying who's the seller, right? Those are the people that are non-owner occupied. But you're also saying who's the buyer, and the buyers are the cash buyers that you're seeing that are buying for cash. You're searching for that person. Oh, I just saw you bought XYZ 1, 2, 3, 4 for cash. You want to buy another one?
Right. It's a reverse engineering of acquisitions. Now you're finding who's buying in that neighborhood, what they're paying for comparable houses for cash. And if you don't already have a relationship with that person, whether it's a institutional buyer, a personal buyer, whatever, then you find out who that person is. You skip trace them. You manually skip trace them, right? If it's an LLC. And then you get a hold of them, like you said, exactly. You just bought this house. How'd the flip go on this house? Oh, I see you fix it up and now you're renting it for $2,100 a month. And,
Sure.
You know, so I got another one 4 doors down for, you know, similar price, hopefully a little bit more.
Yeah, you want to buy this one and you want to start your next project.
Exactly. And then, most of the time they'll want to walk the property. Let them walk the property and get them under contract, assignment contract.
How
Sure.
often has it gotten to the point where Eric locks something up and he goes over to you, Tony, and he says, hey, I just got this property over on 43rd in Glendale. And you say, you know what, Tommy's going to buy. You call Tommy and it's sold.
It just happened on our way to Milwaukee. He locked a deal up, and it was a PPC lead in Raleigh, another one in Raleigh. Locked the deal up. We went and took pictures of it. We literally sent 3 emails yesterday, and one of my friends and good buyers in Raleigh called me and he said, do you want this for the property, which is the price we sent it to him at? I said, I know that's what a hedge fund's going to pay for it, so if you want it, that's what you got to pay for it. And he said, I'll take it. I said,
115 racks.
Well, let's just go.
I said, do you need to walk the property? He goes, looks like a house to me. I'll take it. He didn't even
So
walk
tell
it.
me, so he's paying you guys $115,000 assignment fee.
Yes.
Which is great, right? And you guys made $115,000, which is great. We touched on. We've got a few minutes left. I just want to touch on this because there's a segment in your life. We talked about it a little bit at lunch. So there's a segment in your life where you guys want to start doing more of the end game or the fix and flips versus the wholesalers, right? And the wholesaling is all good, but tell me what he's going to make. Your friend is going to make what on the flip? So he bought it for you, made you guys 115 racks. You guys are happy, right? It was a nice deal. Everyone's happy. He's happy, but what's going to be his payday?
He's probably going to make a little less than what we made on the property.
Okay, so you bought this one really well.
Really well.
Yeah.
But if you take maybe a traditional environment where he might make 100 and you make 50, right? I mean, you see that probably often in your world where
More times than not.
More times than not, the long player, the flipper, is going to make near double what you would have made. They got to put the energy, the time, the energy, and the brain power into the nonsense of rehabbing it, which is enough to drive you crazy at times. But in the same breath, you sold the asset, and now you've got the money, and you're doing it again.
It's like that property you screwed me on that I just sold you.
No, that's my kid. He's doing that
Sold
one
him
for
a
you.
property, made $15K, and you're making how much?
We'll see.
Close to 80 grand on
Hopefully
it.
80. That's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah. Well, when you wholesale, and to be honest with you, I've been in the game for 20 years. I love wholesalers because I don't have the energy. I don't have the infrastructure with $20 and skip trace. I just want the deal, right? And I'm willing to pay for the deal 5 or 6 times a year because I still enjoy the hobby of flipping houses. So that's good. So we're gonna wrap up we've got about a minute and a half left. I just would like to, which we talked about with Carlos a minute ago, and maybe you could kind of just give your 2 minutes of insight. But for the guy that's coming here tomorrow, the guy that's coming here tonight, there's a guy coming here who just worked an 8 to 5. And he's not fulfilled in his life for whatever reason. Give me each of you, if you could take 1 minute just to give me a brief reason of how do they get in this business? Where's the next step for them, right? Because your next step was different than Carlos's next step. We're all different people. We all come from different walks of life, but we're all here walking in this real estate world, right? And there's a guy down there who wants to be in this world who's like, how the hell do I get in it? Give me your 30-second elevator motivational statement to this individual.
It's all fear-based of why you wouldn't jump into
Sure.
it, right? Fear is going to cripple you more than anything. Don't be scared to jump into it. And that's the beauty of wholesaling is you can drive for dollars. You can put bandit signs up. Me and Eric were fortunate enough. We owned other businesses. We could put a little money into this business when we jumped in. So we immediately went to 20 cold callers. But
Sure.
You can start off with very little money and drive for dollars, put bandit signs up, knock on people's doors, do your own, get on PropStream, find, non-owner occupied homes.
Sure.
There's a million ways to get into it. When you make that first deal, take that money and get your VAs and start that process.
Instead of going and buying something stupid
You
with
see
it.
so many people, they get their first deal and they go buy a Rolex.
Yep.
I always say, don't buy a Rolex till you've done $1 million in
Right.
a year, and then buy your first Rolex. All right.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I am wearing a Rolex.
That's good.
But I've been
It's
business
a nice
for a long
one.
time.
We'll have to take it from you. It looks good. Eric, give me your 30-second statement as we're pushing time here.
I got you. I'll be quick, man.
Yeah, no, I want to hear it, though.
At 28 years old, if I could have heard a message like this,
Yeah, that's the message I want to hear right now.
I may have went down a different path. Listen, for somebody that didn't graduate high school, got kicked out of the military, was addicted to drugs, crack cocaine until I was 28 years old. I still have a hard time reading a book from top to bottom and retaining what I had. We aren't special who entered this industry. We can't teach the hustle. We can teach you everything else. Like, your feet don't have to be planted where they are today, tomorrow. Get on the internet and you're going to see people that look just like you. Whether
for
they're
sure.
uneducated, tattooed, been to prison, whatever the case may be. And just the biggest sale you're ever going to make in your life is selling yourself that you can be better than you are today. The number one sale.
I love it,
That was
Eric.
badass.
That
just,
was cool. Thank
just
you.
really quick, so,
Yeah.
so that everybody here listening knows how credible you guys are. We talked a little bit over dinner last night. What are the numbers for this month? Let's just finish off with that.
We assigned $430,100 for January.
But it's projected,
Closing.
That was closed, done.
already done
Ernest-
in your bank account. What's projected to close for the end of the month?
Right now, 503. If we get one more deal to go, it'll be 650 this month.
$650,000.
$650,000 in fee and racks, guys.
1
I'm
month.
proud of you guys. Thank you for being
Thank
in
you.
Milwaukee.
Appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it,
Thank
guys.
you for coming to the Hustle Harder Club, and
Hustle
thank you for joining
Harder.
me on the Hard Truths. I look forward to this weekend. Thank you all for being here.
Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it, guys.